Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, my friends. Today, our topic is parliamentary democracy in India. The presentation given by me, myself, Harshvardhan, and my friends Vimala, Irshad, and Harita. Now, Indian Parliament form of democracy is a supreme legislature body, the parliamentary legislature organ of union government, and the Parliamentary of India. It is occupies as a preeminent position of central position, democratic in political system. Uh, Parliamentary form of democracy is we can call also Westminster model of government. The first general elections held under the 1951 and 1952. It came into existence 19 April 1952. The constitutional provisions articles deals with 79 to 122 122 in part 4 of the constitution deals with law like organization, composition, and duration, office, office procedure, and privileges powers of parliamentary. The framework represents as the Indian Constitution British pattern of that rather than American pattern. Uh, the Indian experience the acts like 1919 and 1935. It is shows as parliamentary system existing executive can be effectively controlled by representative of the people. The makers of Indian Constitution want to ensure that one. The government would be sensitive in public expectations and accountability would be the responsible. The government would be strong executive branch, but the same time enough to safeguard of should be their check against the personality cult. Parliamentary system is a many mechanisms ensure that executive will be answerable to control the legislature of the people representatives, and therefore parliamentary government is adopted by in national level and state level. The elements of parliamentary system in India is a bicameral legislature. One of that bicameral legislature, there are two houses of in parliamentary and unicameral legislature, a single house of parliament or single house of parliament. Indian follows bicameral legislature, which is that lower house Lok Sabha are elected the people members. Upper house is Rajya Sabha, elected representatives. The president can dissolve the Lok Sabha on the recommendation of Prime Minister, while Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, cannot be dissolved. Nominal and real executives. There are two parts of the executive in India: nominal executive and real executive. President is the head of the state, is the nominal executive, and Prime Minister is the real executive. The theoretically constitutional Indian West has the executive powers in President of India, but is a practical is used by Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Majority party rule, that is a wins majority party seats in the elections of lower house of form government. President appoints as the leader of the prime minister other ministers on the recommendation of prime minister. President may be invited in the coalition parties form government in case of the no party got clear majority. The collective responsibilities is another one. The council of ministers is a collective responsibility to the parliament, and the lower house of parliament can be dissolved the government by the exercising that no confidence motion. Opposition party who gets as a second highest vote in the counting elections form the opposition party. It is the place with a circular role in the keeping the checking the ruling government. And censory is the member of executive follows the principles of censory is officially legal matters of the country. Minister take oath of censory before the entering to office. The functions of parliamentary is that legislature functions and control executive and ensuring the accountability, and financial functions and representative functions, debating functions, constituent functions, election functions, and judicial functions. We can see one by one. Legislative functions. The parliamentary enacts the legislative functions for the for the country. Despite of being chief lawmaking body, parliamentary often to merely approves the legislations, and the actually task is drafting the bills performing by the bureaucracy under the supreme vision of the ministers of concern. The substance will be the timing to bill decide to the cabinet. The no bill is introduced by parliament without approval of the cabinet. The members other ministers can be introduced by bills, but this have no chance to be passed without support of the government. There is no chance to pass without support of the government. And the control executive and ensuring the accountability is a most vital function of the parliamentary, ensuring that one overstepping to the authority remains responsible people have been election them. And financial functions, the government raises to that taxation, and however that democracy legislation control of taxation, the way of which is money issued by the government, if the government will be Indian approves the introduce any new taxes, it has been getting to approval by Lok Sabha. The financial power of to parliament involves the grant to resources of the government implement its programs. The government has been given to accounts to raise, and legislature also ensuring to the government does not misspend the overspend, and this is the done through that budget and fi- annual financial statements. And representation, representation is that parliamentary representation is a divergent view of members, regional and social, economical, and group of different parties of the country. And debating function, uh, the parliamentary highest form debating in the country, there is no limitation to on its powers of the discussion. Members are be free to speak any matter without fear. This making the possibility to parliamentary analysis any every issue that facing that nations, the discussion hard to the democratic decision making. And constitute function will be the parliament has power to discussing that enacting the changes of constitution. The constituent powers both houses are similar. There is no changes. All constitutional amendment have been approved a special majority of the both houses. The special majority will be discussed by my friends. And electoral function, parliamentary also perform some electoral functions, acts with presidential and vice president, president of India elections, electoral functions. And judicial functions, the judicial functions, parliamentary includes the considering as a proposal of president, proposal to removal of president, vice president, judges of high court and supreme court, judicial functions. Next part will be discussed by my friend.
Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha should consist of not more than 250 members, 238 members representing the state and union territory, and 12 members nominated by the President. Rajya Sabha is a permanent body and is not subject to dissolution. However, one third of the members retire every second year and are replaced by newly elected members. Each member is elected for a term of 6 years. The Vice President of India is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. The House also elected a deputy chairman from among its members. Besides, there is also a panel of vice chairman in the Rajya Sabha. The senior most ministers who is a member of Rajya Sabha is appointed by the Prime Minister as leader of the House. Special power of Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha being a federal chamber enjoying certain special power under the Constitution. All the subject area regarding legislation have been divided into three lists: union list, state list, and concurrent list. Union and state lists are mutually exclusive. One cannot legislate on a matter placed in the sphere of the other. However, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution by majority of not less than two-thirds of member present and voting saying that it is necessary to expedite in the national interest, the parliament should make a law on a matter enumerated in the state list. Parliament became empowered to make law on the subject specified in the resolution for the whole or any part of the territory of India. Such resolution remain in force of maximum period of 1 year, but this period can be extended by 1 year at the time by passing a similar resolution further. If Rajya Sabha passes a resolution by a majority or of not less than two-thirds of the member presenting and voting declining that it is necessary or expedient in the national interest to create one or more all Indian service common to union and the state, Parliament became empowered to create by law such service. Under the Constitution, the President is empowered to issue a proclamation in the event national emergency, in the event of failure of Constitution machinery in state, or in the case of financial emergency. Every such proclamation has to be approved by both House of Parliament within the stipulated period. Under certain circumstances, however, Rajya Sabha enjoys special power in the regard. Its proclamation is issued at a time when Lok Sabha has been dissolved or the dissolution of Lok Sabha take place within the period allowed for its approval. Then the proclamation remain effective if the resolution approving it is passed by Rajya Sabha within the period specified in the Constitution under Article 352, 356 and 316. Rajya Sabha in financial matters. A money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha after it is passed by that house. It is transmitted to Rajya Sabha for the concurrence or recommendation. The power of Rajya Sabha in respect of such a bill is limited. Rajya Sabha has to return such a bill to Lok Sabha within a period of 14 days from its receipt. If it is not returned to Lok Sabha within that time, the bill is deemed to have been passed by both houses at the expiration of the said period in the form in which it was passed by Lok Sabha. Again, Rajya Sabha cannot amend a money bill, it can only recommend amendment, and Lok Sabha may either accept or reject or any of the recommendation made by Rajya Sabha. Apart from a money bill, certain other category of financial bill also cannot be introduced in Rajya Sabha. There are, however, some other type of financial bill of which there is no limitation on the power of the Rajya Sabha. This bill may be initiated in either House, and Rajya Sabha has power to reject or amend such financial bill like any other bill. Of course, such bill cannot be passed by either House Parliament unless the President has recommended that House the consideration thereof. From all this, however, it does not following the Rajya Sabha has nothing to do matter relating to finance. The budget of the government of India is laid every year before Rajya Sabha also, and its members discuss it. Though Rajya Sabha does not vote or demands for grant of various ministers, a matter exclusively reserved for Lok Sabha nominee, however, can be withdrawn from the consolidated fund for India unless the appropriate bill has been passed by both the houses. Similarly, the financial bill is also brought before Rajya Sabha beside the department related to Parliament Standing Committee that examine the annual demand for grant of the Minister Department are a joint committee having 10 members from Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha is composed of representatives of the people chosen by direct election on the basis of the adult age. The maximum strength of the House envisaged by the Constitution is 552, which is made up by election of up to 513 members to represent the state, up to 20 members to represent the Union Territory, and not more than 2 members of the Anglo-Indian community to be nominated by the Honorable President. If in her opinion that community is not adequately represented in the House after coming into effect of the Constitution 104th Amendment Act 2019, the provision of special representation of the Anglo-Indian community in the House of People by nomination has not been extended further. The total elective member is distributed among the state in such a way that the ratio between the number of seats allotted to each state and a population of the state is so far has practicable the same for all states. Qualification. must be an Indian citizen. He must be not less than 25 years of age. Must be registered as an elector for a parliamentary constituency. Those who want to constituent election from the seat reserved from SC/ST must be a member of a scheduled caste or scheduled tribe in any state or union territory. The Lok Sabha, which is the more representative chamber of the parliament, perform a number of useful functions. These functions are described below. Legislative. First, lawmaking is the main function of the parliament, and in this field the Lok Sabha plays an important role. All type of bill can originate in the Lok Sabha, and if a bill is moved in and passed by Rajya Sabha, it has to come to the Lok Sabha for its approval. If there is any disagreement between the two houses, the Lok Sabha will prevail in the joint sitting with the Rajya Sabha because it has more members than the other house of the parliament. Second, financial. Control over purse makes one powerful in financial matter. The Lok Sabha has distinct superiority of the Rajya Sabha. The money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. It cannot be moved in Rajya Sabha. Further, there is no question of joint sitting if the Rajya Sabha disagree with the Lok Sabha on a money bill. It is up to the Lok Sabha accept or reject the suggestion for change in the money bill made by the other house. 3. Control over executive. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible of the lower house of the parliament. Thus, the government is accountable to the Lok Sabha for its act of omission and commission. The Rajya Sabha cannot hold the government accountable to it. It is only the Lok Sabha which can force the Council of Ministers resign by passing a vote of non-confidential against it. There are also other methods by which the Lok Sabha can exercise control over the central executive. These methods are putting question, moving adjudication motion and call attention motion, budget discussion, call but motion and debate, etc. By employing any this method, the Lok Sabha can expose the state and inefficiency of the government and warn it against repeating such mistake. Fourth, constitutional. The Lok Sabha share with the Rajya Sabha the power of amend the constitution. Fifth, electoral. The Lok Sabha take part of the election of the president and vice president. It elected the speaker and deputy speaker. Its members are elected to different committee of the parliament. Sixth, judicial. The Lok Sabha has power to punish a person on the ground of breach the privilege. It takes part in the impeachment procedure against the President of India. It shares power with the Rajya Sabha to remove the judge of the Supreme Court and judge of the High Court.
Legislative procedure in Parliament. The legislative procedure is identical in both the houses of Parliament. Every bill has to pass through the same stages in each house. A bill is a proposal for legislation that becomes an act or law when duly enacted. Types of bills. Bills introduced in the Parliament are of two kinds: public bills and private bills. Classification. The bills introduced in the Parliament can be classified into four categories. First one, ordinary bills concerned with any matter other than financial subjects. Second one, money bills concerned with financial matters like taxation, public expenditure, etc. Third one, financial bills concerned with financial matters but are different from money bills. Fourth one, constitution amendment bills concerned with the amendment of the provisions of the constitution. Types of bills. Public bill. First point, it is introduced in the parliament by a minister. Second point, it reflects the policies of the government, ruling party. Third point, it has a greater chance to be passed by parliament. Fourth point, its introduction in the house requires 7 days notice. Fifth point, it is drafted by the concerned department in consultation with the law department. Private bill. First point, it can be introduced by any member of the parliament other than a minister. Second point, it reflects the mood of the political party on public matters. Third point, it is less likely to be passed by the parliament. Fourth point, its introduction in the house requires a prior notice of 1 month. Fifth point, its drafting is the responsibility of the members concerned. Classification of bills. Ordinary bills. Every ordinary bill has to pay through the following 5 stages in the Parliament before it finds a place on the statute book. First reading. It can be introduced in either House of Parliament, either by a minister or by any other member. The bill is published in the Gazette of India. The introduction of the bill and its publications in the Gazette constitutes the first reading of the bill. Second reading. It is the most important stage in the enactment of a bill and involves 3 more sub-stages. Stage of general discussion. At this stage, the House can take any one of the following 4 actions. First action. It may take the bill into consideration immediately or on some other fixed date. Second action. It may refer the bill to a select committee of the House. Third action. It may refer the bill to a joint committee of the 2 houses. Fourth action. It may circulate the bill to.
This is Harida. Role of judiciary and executive in parliamentary democracy. It includes the doctrine of the separation of powers divides the institutions of government into 3 branches: legislative, executive and judicial. The legislature makes the laws, the executive puts the laws into operation and the judiciary interprets the laws. The Constitution has not adopted the doctrine of separation of powers in its strict sense, as all the 3 organs do not work separately or independent one another. And its importance. Importance of separation of powers. Ending the autocracy, it protects the liberty of the individual, it maintains the efficiency of the administration, focus on the requirement of independence of the judiciary, and prevent the legislature from enacting an arbitrary rule. Next, why parliamentary system adopted in India? The makers of the Indian Constitution wanted to ensure that the government would be sensitive to public expectations and would be responsible and accountable. The other alternative to the parliamentary executive was the presidential from the government. But the presidential executive puts much emphasis on the president as the chief executive and as source of executive power. Therefore, parliamentary government adopted both at the national and state levels. President. Constitution vests executive power. Elected for a period of 5 years, the president is elected indirectly through the principle of proportional representation with single transferable vote. Removed through impeachment. The only ground for impeachment is violation of the Constitution. Power and position of President. The President has wide-ranging executive and legislative, judicial and emergency powers. In a parliamentary system, these powers are in reality used by the President only on the advice of the Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers have support of the majority in the Lok Sabha and they are the real executive. Discretionary powers of the President. President can send back the given by the Council of Ministers and ask the Council to reconsider the decision. The President also have veto power by which he can withhold or refuse to give given assent to bills or other than money bill passed by the Parliament. The President has to decide whom to appoint as the Prime Minister when there is no clear majority and the attempts to force alliance fail. Pocket veto. In this case, the President neither ratifies nor rejects nor returns the bill, but simply keeps the bill pending for an indefinite period. This power of the President not to take any action on the bill is known as the pocket veto. And why do we need a President? The Council of Ministers may be removed any time and a new Council of Ministers may be replaced as they are completely dependent on the support of majority of the legislature. In such a situation, a head of state is required to appoint Prime Minister and to symbolically represent a country. This is the role of President in ordinary circumstances. And next heading, the Vice President of India. The Vice President is elected for 5 years. His election method is similar to that of the president. The only difference is that members of state legislature and are not part of the electoral college. The vice president may be removed from his office by a resolution of the Rajya Sabha passed by a majority and agreed to by the Lok Sabha. The vice president acts as the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha and takes over the office of the president when there is a vacancy by reasons of death, resignation, removal by impeachment, or otherwise. The vice president acts as the president only until a new president is elected. Role of judiciary. It includes, first point, role of law implies that all individuals, rich and poor, men or women, forward or backward caste, are subjected to the same law. Second one, judiciary protects rule of law and ensures supremacy of law. And it safeguards rights of the individual, settles disputes in accordance with the law. And the fourth one, it ensures that democracy. Next, judiciary. Functions of judiciary. Supreme Court of India, its decisions are binding on all courts, can transfer judges of high courts, can move cases from any court to itself, can transfer cases from one high court to another high court. It can hear appeals from lower courts. It can issue rights to restore fundamental rights. It can deal with the cases within the jurisdiction of states. Exercises superintendence and control over courts below it. District Court, deal with cases arising in the district, consider appeals on decisions given by lower courts, decides cases involving serious criminal offences. Subordinate courts, consider cases of civil and criminal nature. Supreme Court of India. India has a single integrated system of judiciary in view of a single constitution. At the top is the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court consists of one Chief Justice and judges appointed by President. Usually the senior most judge of the Supreme Court is appointed as the Chief Justice of India. In case of other judges, the Chief Justice recommends names of persons to be appointed in consultation with the four senior most judges of the court. Supreme Court jurisdiction. Supreme Court jurisdiction original settles disputes between union and states and among states. Appellate tries appeals from lower courts in civil, criminal and constitutional cases. Advisory advises the president on matters of public importance and law. Special power can grant special leave to an appeal from any judgment or matter passed by any court in the territory of India. Independence of judiciary. Independence of judiciary means that the other organs of the government must not restrain the functioning of the judiciary in such a way that it is unable to do justice. Other organs of the judgment should not interfere with its decision. Judges must be able to perform their functions without fear or favor. How is it ensured? Judges are, it includes, judges are appointed by the President of India. They enjoy a fixed tenure. Removal is through a difficult process of impeachment. It is financially independent. Actions and decisions of the judges are immune from personal criticism. And power to penalize contempt of court. And last one, Parliament cannot discuss the conduct of the judges.
Leaders in Parliamentary, the leader of House. Under the rules of Lok Sabha, the leader of House means the Prime Minister or other ministers is who are members of Lok Sabha is nominated by Prime Minister, functioning as the leader of such House. There is a leader of House in Rajya Sabha who is a member ministers and members of Rajya Sabha is nominated by Prime Minister such as functions. He exercises directly influence the conduct a business. The House of Leader is a house is not mentioned in the constitution but it in the rules of house. The leader of opposition, the largest opposition party having not less than the one tenth of seats of the total strength, house is recognized as the leader of opposition. The he and he provide a constructive criticism of government policies to provide the alternative government. The leader of opposition, both houses were, according to stationary recognition in the 1977, and are entitled the salaries, allowances, and other facilities equivalent to the cabinet ministers. The house of the leader of opposition is not mentioned in the constitution, but it mentioned in the parliamentary state. In the whip system is a, every political party are ruling or opposition, it has own whip system in parliament. He and she appointed by the political party to serve as a assistant floor leader charged with the responsibilities ensuring the attendance his party to member of large members to secure the support of favor the against to the particular issue. He regulates to the monitoring their behavior in the parliament and their members of supposing to follow the directives given by the whip. The office of whip is mentioned in the neither in Indian constitution nor in the other two states mentioned by above. It was based on the conventions of parliamentary government. Sections of parliament. The summoning, this is the process of calling the all members in the parliament to meet. Summon parliament is a specific in mentioned in the article 85 in the Indian constitution. President summons the house of parliament from in time to time. However, the maximum gap between the two summon sections is not more cannot be more than the 6 months. So the seasons of parliaments in Indian does not have a fixed parliament calendar, but convention parliament meets as a 3 seasons in a year. Budgetary season is the longest season of started to towards the end of January by towards into January and end of by April. And the monsoon season is that second season usually begins with July and finish with August. Winter season is the last season is started with only November and December. Adjournment. An adjournment is a suspend of the work in the two sitting in the specific time, which may be hours and days or weeks. When the meeting is terminated without any definite and time and fixed for the not next meeting is called adjournment signed in. The power of adjournment as well as the adjournment signed in without presiding officer with presiding officer, speaker or chairman of the house. Propagation. Unlike the adjournment, propagation is a terminates the sitting as well as a section of the house. It is done by President of India. Propagation is a different form of dissolution of Lok Sabha. Quorum refers to the minimum members of the requirement to present the conducting the meeting of house. The constitution is as a fixed 1/10 of strength of quorum both houses of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha joint sitting of the parliament. The Constitution of India under the Article 108 provides to the joint sitting of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in the order to break any deadlock between the two. The joint sitting is called by President and presiding over the Lok Sabha Speaker. In the absence of Lok Sabha Speaker, Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha presided over the meeting. The absence of both the presiding over the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Lambda section. Lambda section is refers to that exiting the Lok Sabha after that new Lok Sabha will be elected. Those who were member into existing the Lok Sabha who could be not re-elected, the new Lok Sabha is called Lambda section. The devices of parliamentary proceeding, like question hour. The first hour is every parliamentary sitting terminated as a question hour. It is mentioned in the rules of procedure of the house. During this time, the members of asking questions of minister usually given to the answers. There are three type of questions. Started questions. They are distinguished by the as a trickies and requires of oral answers as the supplementary questions can follow. Unstarted questions. It is requires a written answer, hence supplementary questions cannot follow. Short notice questions. The matter of public importance on the urgent characteristic of considering to under the type of questions. This is asked by given to notice less than the 10 days or answered by orally. 0 hour. A 0 hour is an Indian parliamentary innovation. It is not mentioned in the parliamentary rules book. Under this, members of parliamentary cannot be raised without prior notice. The 0 hour starts immediately after the question hour. Last until the agenda the day of regular business of the House. It is taken up by. Other words, the gap between that question hour and the agenda is known as a 0 hour of an hour discussion. It means to the discussing the matter of sufficient public importance, which has been subjected into a lot of debate of answers of to which needs to elucidation of the matters of facts. The speaker can allot into 3 days in a week for such a discussion. There is a no formal motion or voting before in the House. A short duration of discussion. It is known as a 2 hour discussion. The time of allotment to such a discussion should not extend into 2 hours. The members of parliament can raise a discussion no on a matters of urgent public importance. The speaker allotted into 2 days. 2 days a week, such as a discussion, there is neither formal motion before house nor voting. The devices has been existent since 1953. The motions in Indian Parliament privilege motion. It is a moved by that members when he feels that minister has a committed to a breach of privilegation house or one or more. It may be member of without holding of facts or cases of given by the wrong or desert of facts. It purpose to the censure of concern the ministers. It will be can be removed by in Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha. Censure motion. It is should be that stated. The reason for that it will be Lok Sabha can be moved against the individual ministries or a group of ministers. The council of ministers moving to the ensuring to council of ministers specific policies or actions can be moved also Lok Sabha. And call attention motion. It is introduced in the parliament by members of to call attention in the ministry matters of urgent public importance and seeking to the authoritative statements from the him to matters. It can be moved into Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha. Adjournment motion. It is introduced into Lok Sabha to drawn to attention the House to definite matters urgent public importance to involve into eliminate ensuring of against the government. It can be moved only Lok Sabha. No date named motion. It is also one of the motion. And the non-confidence motion, Article 75 of the Constitution says that the Council of Ministers shall be collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. In other words, the Lok Sabha can be removed into Ministry of the House by passing the no confidence motion. The motion needs to support the 50 members to the admitted can be moved into Lok Sabha. The cut motion. A cut motion is a special power to vested in the ministers of Lok Sabha oppose the demand of being the discussion of the specific allocations by the government finance bills. Part of that demand grants. The motion adopted into the amounts of no confidence of vote. If the government is fails to join the above members in a lower house, it will be obligated to resign to according to the norms of house. A motion may be moved in to reduce the amount of demand. Any following of says the policy cut motion, it will be moved into the certain amount of that demand reducing into 1 rupee is a representative for disapproval to policy underlining the demand. Economy cut motion, it is moved into the amount demand will be reducing by specific amount. The token cut motion, it will be moved into that amount of the demand reducing by 100 the expenses by specific grievancy. It can be moved in only Lok Sabha. Closure motion is also one of closure motion and point order motion and motion of thanks. This is also types of motion. And special mention motion is a matter which is not a point or order the which is cannot be raised during the question hour of an hour of discussion, short duration of discussion, or under adjournment motion calling to attention of notice or under the rule any rule of the house can be raised under the special mention in the Rajya Sabha. It is equivalent procedure of device the Lok Sabha is known as a notice under rule 377.